Que lo que mi gente, welcome to the Monoplaza F1 podcast. As always, I'm your host, Henry Bertre, and this week, today, tonight, this evening, whatever, we are going to be covering the Austrian Grand Prix. All right. Just like the last couple of episodes, the last couple English much, jeez. Just like the last couple of episodes, this one is probably going to be a short one because, again, it's just me. Sorry, not sorry, I guess. It's my podcast. But hey, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, I'd like to remind you if you are watching, if you have made it this far, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. It costs you nothing and it helps get the word out for this podcast. All right. So let's get into it. Just a quick summary, thoughts, not reviews, what have you. At this point, it's already been a couple of days since the race happened. So more or less everything that has been said and needed to be said has probably been said at this point. So I guess it's just my take, I guess. Right. First and foremost, congratulations to Lando Norris for the victory. This is a track where Lando is superhuman, got his first podium ever in F1 at this track, and he was able to get the pole lap. It wasn't close. He dunked on his teammate, who was the closest person to him, obviously, because he started, or not the closest person. He dunked on his teammate. The closest person to him was Charles Leclerc. I know that. He dunked on everybody essentially in second, third, and fourth by about half a second. All right. Just phenomenal effort by him to get the pole after being criticized for weeks. He's been criticized a lot for his terrible polls and just foobarring and messing it up at the last minute. So he did what he had to do. Lando Norris got that pole by God. It was left no doubt. All right. they were never close. Now, what was a little bit surprising for me was Charles Leclerc getting P2. This is actually a track that Ferrari, particularly Charles Leclerc, does pretty good at. So the fact that Charles got that, okay, maybe not a surprise, but yeah, he got P2, albeit he started P2 after qualifying about, again, half a second down on Lando. And I think the person starting at third obviously was Oscar Piastri. I wouldn't say I was super disappointed. I think Oscar did the best he could in the car. Um, I'm not going to be hard on him because I don't think I need to be hard on him, right? He was able to do, I guess, his best. And ultimately, he started P3, but he finished P2. So he still maintains the championship lead, albeit by 15 points. It's going to be a tight race. What I will say about this race is that it further cemented that this is now just a two-horse race between McLaren and McLaren. They did some good racing. Oscar obviously was on Lando basically throughout different stints of the race, right? But primarily the first stint of the race before the first pit stop, he was on him. He couldn't make the move. I mean, I think at one point he did end up passing Lando, but Lando just took him and Lando overtook him, and then he was able to get the position back. But from basically start to finish, there was some position changes, but yeah, Norris pretty much was able to fend off Oscar and hang on for the victory. So again, congratulations, Lando, first and foremost. And yeah, with that out of the way, now we get to some of the juicier storylines, right? So you saw a race that started and almost immediately, right, going into turn one, you saw Kimi Antonelli, Kimi just make a rookie mistake, right? Andrea just got, I'm just going to say he got extremely ambitious going into turn one, and people braked a lot sooner than he anticipated, right? The result of that being that he basically T-boned Max Verstappen, sent him into a tailspin, and that was the race for Max Verstappen. Now, what's interesting about this, and this is what I'm saying at this point, people have just talked about everything that needs to be talked about, but the talking point was Max's reaction after that crash, after that incident, right? You saw Max getting out of the car. Again, people seeing Max race throughout all these years assumed that he was going to lose it. If you have any doubt in your mind about that, I guess just go back to Brazil several years back when Esteban Ocon caused him to be knocked out of the race, and how he handled that with maturity is how he handled that. Yes, sarcasm. But instead, when Andrea T-Bone Max, you see a Max coming out who is immediately turning around and going to Kimmy, putting that hand on his shoulder. Kimmy's apologizing, I'm assuming, saying, hey, my bad, it's my fault. And then Max just calmly walked out, and that was that. We would later find out that he didn't even watch the race. He was watching the Spa 24-hour race, and I'm pretty sure when he says his team, he's talking about his racing, his online racing team. This guy did not even care. Now, again, Max would also say, and by the way, he started P7, just not Red Bull's weekend, right? Max would say, hey, I gave it all I could, but this car, and this was during qualifying, right? So I'm backtracking a little bit. He said, I gave it all I could, but even if I could have done any better, this car was miles off the pace. So he had already admitted he was not going to get pole. Max is great. He is not always a miracle worker. That car is what it is. We are seeing in real time the decline of that Red Bull. I won't say the decline of Max. Absolutely not. Just the decline of Red Bull, which now fast forward to the incident on track where Antonelli runs into him. Now, Antonelli runs into him, and Max is consoling him. And you know what kind of it reminded me of? I saw this thing, and I forget who said it, but it actually is very clutch. Where basically, if y'all ever watch like MasterChef or Hell's Kitchen or anything like that, where it's Gordon Ramsay, right? So I'm singling out Gordon Ramsay. He is absolutely terrible, terrible to these cooks, these chefs. However, however, if you ever see Gordon Ramsay in MasterChef Kids, he is completely different person, 180 degrees, super nice. And in that respect, going back, that's how Max was. Max is normally like a Gordon Ramsay Hell's Kitchen type, but with Kimmy, he was very gentle, very like, hey man, whatever. It's all good. And to his credit, Kimmy did go to the Red Bull trailer and he apologized, basically saying like, hey, that was my fault. I'm so sorry. Right? Great. Max would be interviewed about it later, and he essentially said, these are things that happen when you're a rookie. So he chalked it up to just rookie mistake. And now people are talking about several things, right? So they're talking about, wow, look at Max Verstappen. He is uh, the quintessential elder statesman now. He is very gentle with these rookies, always looking out for these rookies. I'll touch on that in a second. Um, but yeah, he is being super great and a role model to these rookies. Now, to that I say that's not necessarily a lie. He has treated these rookies with a lot of respect. To some extent, maybe it was how he wished he had been treated when he was a rookie. Okay, to some extent. Of course, back then, Max was being very reckless and making a lot of rookie mistakes. Water under the bridge at this point. The second reason that people are talking about this and the rumor to come out is that Max was being so kind and nice to Kimmy because Max and Kimmy are going to be teammates next year at Mercedes. Now, this is a rumor that has been going on for a long time. Nobody can confirm it. When people interview the current Mercedes drivers, right? Specifically George Russell. Hey, man, is Max going to take your seat? Is Max getting signed? He's very bashful about it. Toto Wolff is not shy about the fact that he is in talks or talking to the Verstappen camp, right? So again, Max's treatment of Kimi further fueled the fire and speculation that, oh yeah, of course, these guys are going to be teammates next year. So whatever, that's fine. Now, going back to how Max treats the rookies, another rookie who basically said, Max is a great guy. He is not somebody who you'll see talking to media a lot, but he is real, blah, 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 this, that, and third. And that's Gabby Bortoleto. Now, they have been trading toes back and forth throughout qualifying throughout the year. And thanks to Max's toe, Gabby was able to get probably the highest qualifying position that he ever had. And now, um, because I don't remember this off the top of my dome, right? If you look at Austria for qualifying, Gabby Bortoleto was able to get P8 in large part thanks to that toe that Max gave him. Now, not trying to throw salt on it, not trying to be a hater, not trying to be salty, whatever you say. Um, I do not doubt that the relationship between Max and Gabi Bortoleto is a good one. There's certainly many things that tie those two together. The fact that Max's partner is Brazilian, the fact that Gabi himself is Brazilian, the fact that they spend a lot of time with the PKs and with other former Brazilian drivers, specifically Massa, which, by the way, is a little bit weird to me personally because why is Massa hanging out with a bunch of current drivers and possibly younger drivers? But we can chalk that up to just me being a hater. All right. So going back. Anyways, so the relationship with Gabi and Max is obviously a good one. So that's very real. That's very true. Not taking anything away from that. However, I would also like to point out, of course, Max is helping out Sauber. It's not a competition. Sauber is not a competition for Red Bull. Red Bull is not the best car on the grid. It's certainly not a top car or a terrible car, though, right? It is on some tracks probably 2, 3 fastest. Other tracks maybe like the fourth fastest, what have you. So yeah, it's not going to cost Max anything to give Gabi Bortoleto a toll because guess what? Even if he gets the Salvers into Q3, there's no way the Salvers are going to be able to get a time that's faster than the Red Bull he is driving. So again, yeah, super nice, awesome, love to see it. But but I doubt that if Bortoleto was in Mercedes or Ferrari or maybe even a Racing Bull, that he would be getting a tow from Max consistently. So maybe a one off, sure, but consistently, right? In any case, that's just me being salty. I'm going back. But yeah, the treatment of Max and the rookies, noted. Rumors of Max going to Mercedes, noted. The final note that I'll add, and then I'll jump back. I'm all over the place. Sorry. I'll jump back to Bortoleto in a second. The final thing that I'll add is this. If Max is in fact going to be going to Mercedes, awesome, great, congratulations. The person that I feel sorry for, obviously, is George Russell. I've been talking about this since last year. We saw the writing on the wall. I want to make something very clear. I have said if I was George Russell and I'd see the writing on the wall, there's no way that like I tough it out. Or I've said some variation. If I was George Russell, I'd be looking for a job. I want to make very clear that I know, yeah, sure, I can say all of that. But the matter of fact, or it stands to reason that George Russell doesn't have any options. Can't go to Red Bull. Certainly can't go to McLaren. Can't go to Ferrari. Can't stay at Mercedes, right? And so for now, his best bet, right? And when I say he can't go anywhere else, what I mean is he can't go anywhere else on a competitive team. I'm sure Haas would love him. I'm sure if Williams had the space, if Albon decided to, I don't know, retire, I don't know why he would. They would love to take him. Sauber probably, Alpine for sure would love to take a driver, but none of those teams are top marker teams, right? Those are all midfield to back marker teams, right? And so I understand George Russell. So I just want to make very clear, me saying, yeah, if I was George Russell, I'd be looking for another. Yeah, sure, I can say that all along, but I knew George had no option. I've been knowing George has no. His best option is with Mercedes, and what's tricky about that is that in spite of George like showing out, because if you go back to the beginning of the season, George was getting consistent P3s. George got a dub in Canada, right? I'm not sure what else George Russell has to do to retain the seat in Mercedes. These contract negotiations should have been done. I think if they haven't been done, it's either because Verstappen to Mercedes is a sure thing, or they're trying to haggle over, okay, George, we will renew your contract, but we're going to only renew it for a year, and then we'll revisit this again next year, right? Like, I get it. In the interim, obviously, George is doing everything that he can, and he has done a great job of proving that he belongs on that team. That being said, George Russell is not a Max Verstappen. So if Toto can get Verstappen in a car that's brand new, aka the 2026 with some new regs that supposedly favors the engine, although again, other rumors have been swirling around that Mercedes power unit is maybe dealing with some issues. It was considered the heavy favorite, but now they're saying, ooh, we don't know. That's speculation, right? Mercedes makes great engines. But if Toto gets a chance to sign Max, he will. That leaves George in a position of not necessarily being out of the paddock or the grid, because I think he'll still get a seat. But that leaves George in a position of potentially falling from the top marker teams and ending up in the midfield or a back marker team. It's a cold world. It's business. I think probably what I don't like about all of this is just kind of like the double talk. And business is business. It's always going to be that. The teams currently today seem to favor a win now mentality versus we're going to develop a young driver or in-house talent, and we're going to do what we can with that. Again, I'm not sure what George can do. It's not like he's been terrible the last 3 years. Don't get me wrong. He hasn't really wowed. Um, but again, are you I guess I'm assuming that Mercedes, if they sign Max, is saying we are better off with Max than with George. Either way, we are seeing the downfall of Red Bull. It's crazy. It's like they pop off 4 World Driver Championships in a row, then something happens and they fall off for a long time, then they come back, win 4, and now they've fallen off again. Very weird, very coincidental. So we'll see. All right. Back to Gabi. I told y'all I'd be back. Back to Gabi. Gabi had an amazing race. He started P8, like I said, and he was able to finish the race with probably his best. Actually, not probably. He literally finished with his best race result ever. He finished in P5. Or actually, sorry, he did not finish in P5. That's asinine. George Russell finished in P5. Liam Lawson P6. Alonso P7. Gavi started 8. He finished 8. Got his first points. Him and Nico both scored points. By the way, shouts out Nico Hulkenberg. Started, I think, P20 and then ended up P9. Yeah, he was on my fantasy team. Actually, both those Sauber boys were on my fantasy team. Shouts out to them because they really made it happen. Also, shouts out to the Entrando Pits Fantasy League. I don't have enough people following this channel yet for me to start a fantasy league, but one day I will. Again, once again, I'd like to remind y'all, if you've made it this far, please don't forget, comment, like, subscribe. It costs you nothing. Anyways, Gabi Bortoleto had an amazing race, had an amazing result, got his first points in F1. Now, what should be called out is that I've hyped up Hadjar in the Racing Bull has been having a tremendous rookie campaign. Antonelli in the Mercedes started off really well. Lately has not been doing super great, right? Going back to Emilia Romagna, DNF, Monaco lap twice, no points. Then DNF'd, I think, in Spain, and then DNF'd or had a terrible result in not Canada. He got his literal first podium in Canada. Canada was a highlight, only to come crashing down to earth with this race. Another DNF, right? So if you go back to let's see. Results. Sorry, y'all. I'm doing this in real time. Okay. Nobody say anything. Anyways, Antonelli has started. He started the season off really well, and it's just kind of like been wishy-washy the rest of the time. All right. The rookie who has quietly been having a really strong campaign, who's actually really fast, is Gabi Bortoleto. The problem, of course, and it's an obvious statement that I'm going to say next, he's in a Sauber, soon to be an Audi. Because that car is so slow, you're not really seeing the level of driving and the talent that he has. So now, again, it's another rumor swirling that Bortoleto is potentially looking for another team. I don't know what team he would end up with. I literally, I have no idea. But regardless, he's having a really strong, under the radar, and underestimated rookie campaign. If he was in a faster car, we'd be hyping him up big time, right? Anyways, but yeah, shouts out to the Salbers, shouts out to Gabby, shouts out to Nico, shouts out to that team. I guess Jonathan Wheatley is really turning things around. Him and Mattia Binotto. I don't know, y'all. This is the most I've mentioned Sauber in a long time. All right. I got to give credit where credit is due. I didn't even do my original disclaimer. Hey, if you are a Sauber or an Aston Martin fan, we will be talking about your team this episode. Literally, we just got done talking about them. Right. Anyways, in terms of Ferrari, I really won't say much. They were the second fastest team. Leclerc, great job, got another podium. Hamilton finished P4, matching his best result all year. So hasn't gotten a podium, but it's incoming. He finally looks to be settling in on the team, and I have no doubt that he is finally going to bring it to Charles. That's great. Basically, just in the nick of time because Silverstone is up next, and Hamilton has been on a podium at Silverstone every year since 2014. That's 11 years of him being on a podium. Oh, Ferrari. Oh, Ferrari. So fingers crossed that the Ferrari is at least fast enough to get Lewis Hamilton a podium. At least what I want is a Lewis Hamilton win. If that can happen, that would be amazing. I would eat off of that for the rest of this season. But we'll see. In this race, I tweeted out that I was a little bit miffed, I guess, about Ferrari's strategy, right? So Charles outqualified Lewis. That's great. He started P2. Lewis did not do that much worse than Charles. P4. Uh, they started, and basically Charles got jumped by Piastri, and so he ended up in P3 and then P4. At one point, Lewis, and this is where like me questioning the strategy came into play. At one point, Lewis was out. He was P1 on track, but it was because all of the other cars had pitted. He had not pitted. Uh, or actually, it was during the second stint. I apologize. It was during the second stint. He was on the hards. Everybody had pitted. He was in P3 at that point, and Charles boxed. And then they're saying, Lewis, you need to box. And Lewis is asking a bunch of questions. He's like, hey, no, the tires are still good. Can I please go longer? No, box, box. Wait, what lap? How many laps are left? 20 laps, box, box. No, I feel like I can go box, box. I don't want to box, box, box. Eventually, Lewis did box and go to the pits, came out in some mediums, which ultimately meant that he would end the race P4 and Charles would get that podium, right? During the race, again, I tweeted out, like, what the heck? Why did they pit Lewis? Two things I wasn't paying attention to. One, George Russell behind him was starting to make inroads on Lewis. Now, would he have caught him? I don't know. But it certainly would have made things more difficult for him to pit, meaning that at the rate that Russell was catching him, if Lewis had pitted, he most likely would have not come out ahead of Russell and then would have had to fight him for that position again, which may or may not have been as easy. I don't know. This past week, the Mercedes was not super fast, right? So again, Russell was catching up to him at a rate of like, he'd put a lot of time on that, right? Okay, so they pitted. The second thing is that post race, Lewis himself said, yeah, I wanted to stay out longer, but ultimately it was probably for the best that I came in, right? So for me, it's water under the bridge. What I take away from this weekend is that he is finally seeming or starting to feel or look comfortable in that car. It looks like maybe the upgrade worked. So we'll see what Silverstone has for us because, again, Ferraris bring upgrades. Will they pan out? I don't know. Obviously, the time for upgrades and the pivot for working on the 2026 car, we're getting to that inflection point, right? Soon they're going to have to stop bringing upgrades and just focus solely on the 2026 car, right? But for now, hopefully these upgrades will work. And he gets at least a podium in Silverstone. Again, solid race from Charles. No notes, really. Honestly, uh, Ferrari was just kind of like in a no man's land. McLaren was in a race in it like by themselves, and so Ferrari wasn't really in a race between Lewis and Charles. They were just kind of like in no man's land, right? Especially after the race just kind of like settled down. Everybody got in. Um, the last thing I guess that I will say is talking about. Let's see here. Just talking about the end of the race and whether or not Oscar would have caught Lando. And the only thing that I'll say is this: there was maybe a little bit of controversy, a little bit of drama, and then uh, Oscar, Oscar being his very stoic usual self, hilarious, whatever. By the way, I'm also gonna like stop talking about like Oscar. Like Oscar seems like a great kid. I don't know him personally, not yet. Maybe one day I'll meet him. We can become best friends. Blah 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 blah. This that, and the third. But I think enough has been said about Oscar's calm demeanor. All right, we get it. Cool, calm, and collected. However, during this race, he pitted and he came out in traffic, and he came out into a battle between Tsunoda and Franco Colapinto, who at that point were a lap down. So they should have given the positions to Oscar. They got the blue flags waved at them. They did not. They had a literally they were just battling, and Colapinto almost, I don't know if almost, but definitely pushed Oscar wide. That could have been a disaster because Oscar was on the grass. That could have been terrible. And yeah. So regardless of that, because of that, obviously he lost valuable time, ran out of laps, and was not able to catch up to Lando. Of course, what's funny is that Oscar got on the radio and essentially was saying, yeah, even after all, I'm paraphrasing, even after all these years, Alpine still finds a way to F me, right? Screw me over, right? And so like that bit was a little bit funny. I know you could tell by my face how hilarious it was. Um, and at the risk of drawing the ire of anybody, um, Tsunoda and Colapinto, yeah, they could have kept it pushing and maybe let Oscar buy and continue their battle, but it was a bit reckless to see. And we'll see how it goes for Franco. Obviously, he's still at Alpine, but this week rumors came out again. This is what I'm saying. Like post race rumors came out that Valtteri Bottas could potentially replace him for the remainder of the year, which is kind of like, dang, ooh, that's weird. And by the way, like that just further, if that actually happens, further makes me say never trust anything coming out of Flavio Briatore's mouth, because he said, "No, I don't know where this 5 race contract thing came from. We're giving him the best chance that we can." It doesn't matter. All right. So if Colapinto gets replaced by Bottas for the remainder of the year, then yeah, everything coming out of Briatore's mouth is lies. Of course, that would be very weird because they paid a lot of money for Colapinto and his services for them to just do this. And I don't place this solely at Colapinto's feet. Frankly, like the car's just not that good. Shock. If you're an investor in Alpine, you will probably start to feel like Alpine is running a huge pyramid scheme at this point, because what are we doing? Where is all this money going? Yeah. What else? Oh, final stat. This was the first time in a long time, I believe, 72 to 77 races. I don't know. I'm not even going to look that up. This is the first time in 72 or 77 races that Red Bull has not scored a point. Yuki Tsunoda finished P16, and that's only like he finished dead last, down 2 laps. And he finished P16 because 4 people were out, right? Max, Kimmy, and the 2 Williams boys. Oof, Williams had a rough weekend, right? Um, Max obviously DNF'd, so Red Bull did not score any points. I feel bad for Yuki. He said he was ready for the big time. I don't know if it's a car. I don't know if I believe he didn't have the same upgrades that Max did. Either way, the car was not fast for Max. It's certainly not going to be that much better for Yuki, if at all. So terrible weekend for Red Bull. Yeah, the last thing I say that I will talk about and say is this: power rankings came out for F1, various teams. Read them at your leisure. Um, my gripe is this: they rated Fernando Alonso higher than Lewis Hamilton, in spite of Lewis Hamilton finishing ahead of Alonso. I'm going to assume that the reason Alonso got a higher rating was because he accomplished that much in an Aston Martin. Whereas a Lewis Hamilton driving a Ferrari should have finished higher. I don't know. Otherwise, I don't really know why they rated it higher than Hamilton. That's it. Rant over. Anyways, we've come to the end, y'all. That is it for my race review. Apologies for this being so late. Just a lot of stuff going on as I prepare to go on yet another trip. Should be fun. But once again, if you've made it this far, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. Tell your tios, your tias, your mommies, your papis, abuelos, abuelas, vecinos, that's neighbors if you don't speak Spanish. For the Monoplaza F1 podcast, this is Emi Bertre. Peace.